Alrighty guys, so this is part 2 for putting my 6-liter LS motor back together. That one right there. For my Crewcab Squarebody Chevy. Last video, the one without sound, I got the cam put in, crank is put in but not torqued, oil pump is put on, cam gears and all that, that's all in. So big stopping point for me was my piston rings needed to be file fit. Well, the tool showed up, so put this thing together and we'll get to it. Alright, so I've heard that these things work faster than you want them to, so while I'm learning, I'm going to start with relatively smaller counts. I know these needed a lot taken off of them, but I'm going to start by doing, you know, that was about 10 rotations on the little wheel here. So we'll see what that does and we'll go from there to see what I need. So let's head over here to the motor. Let's move that, lean her up so we got a good view right down into the bore. Alright, so just quickly looking at it, 10 rotations got us in the neighborhood of being able to, you know, now when it installs, it's not touching itself, so it only looks like we maybe got like a 2 or 3 thou gap in there. It's real small. I'm going to have to check the math again, but I do believe it wanted a 16 thou gap. So I'm going to have to look into that again. But let's just see where we're at with the feeler gauges. Let's start with 5 thou. Let's see what 5 thou has to say. What? Right now? Okay. I'll be back. Oh, and because I forgot to do this from the beginning, clap check. Oh, hopefully I can get my timing right. So I just got called off to deal with the baby for a little bit, but let's get back to this. So 5 thou didn't fit at all. Let's see, 2.5 thou. Only fits on the open end, so about 1 to 2 thou, like I said. Let's check the numbers on this. Paperwork says you do bore for a caster forged, which my pistons are forged. You do bore times 4 thou. My bore is 30 over. So let's grab our calculator and we do 4.03 times 0.004 gives us 16.1, 16 thou plus an eighth. 16 and an eighth thou. So we're going to shoot for about 16 with our top ring. Second ring is a little bit bigger. It goes 4.03 times 0.0045, because that's that one right there. No, I was wrong. Back. Don't do that. Second ring. Oh yeah, I was right. So 0.45 equals 18 thou and a little change. So 16 and 18 thou is what we're going to shoot for. For street strip, it's a little looser, so we're actually probably going to go for 17 and 19 thou. I think that should be safe. A touch loose versus a touch tight, because that gives you a little more protection so that they don't touch. So let's pull that one out and let's give it 4 rotations and see where that puts us. No, not 4. We're going to give it, we'll give it 4. Okay, so I got all 8 of those, well, 7, my bad. I got all 7 of those rings installed. All of them are gapped right. I've gapped all 8 rings in total. So now I'm just going to pop these rings on right quick. I'll let you see how I do it. And then we'll move over to the motor and actually put these things in. So first thing is, I generally think it's best to work from the bottom ring up, because then you're not trying to run rings over top of other ones. And so first thing up would be your oil ring, which, as it might sound like it does, it keeps the oil under, down in the bottom where it needs to be. You have this nice little scrunchy looking one, it goes in the middle, and then you have these 2 thin ones that go, offset them one direction each. So this one I'm going towards the left side, this one goes towards the right side, and by that I mean the end of the ring. The reason you do that is it helps for a better seal. Okay, so then the oil ring's easy enough to install by hand. Then we go to the second ring, which on this particular set of rings, it is a directional ring. It's got that little dot. The dot always faces up. Since we put the oil ring gap on this side, we're going to put the second ring gap on the bottom. So let's get this flipped over, grab our ring spreader tool, get a grip on her, reach over, get her lined up into her groove, set her in, and there she is. So now the top ring, mine is reversible with this kit. We want this to face the other direction. So our ring gap on our second one's up here. This is going to go back up to the top. So we'll flip back over here. And then get our spreader. I'm realizing now I might have gotten kind of close to the camera, so it might be in a weird field of view. But, sorry. So, get her into her groove, and she's set. So, this piston is now, the piston is ready to install. I still got to put the bearings on the rod. Okay, so the bearings, they install exactly the same way as they did on the rod journals, which is, let's get in there with a clean rag, make sure there ain't any, no dust on there. And that is, you just take them and you pop them into place. There's nothing else to it. You grab your cap, also wipe it down, make sure it's no new dirt in there. Then you take it, same idea, line up your groove, right there, and then pop it down into place, and you got it. So I'm gonna take these one at a time and install the piston, check the bearing clearance. If like 3 of the bearing clearances check out, I'm just gonna install all 8, because at that point, I trust that my machinist did his job the way he should have, and it should run fine. He has not given me a reason to suspect otherwise. So let's get moved over to the motor. Set our compressor in place, line up our piston. Alright, get her lined up in the bore the way she needs to be. Then, with the back of the hammer, just tap, 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 and she's in. So, now I'm gonna reach underneath here. I'm gonna kind of push it with my hand and guide it onto the crankshaft with my other hand. Like that, it's all set down so that it doesn't nick the crank on its way down. Now we're gonna roll her up. Oh, that's a heavy motor. There we go. Alright, so I'm not gonna lube this side because I'm gonna put plastic gauge on it. Where's my plastic gauge? There it is. So, it's my whip. Okay. Crap, I dropped it. Crap, where'd that piece go? Alright, so there's my little piece of plastic gauge. Set her up kind of in the center there. Okay, so there's our results. Set that to the side there. Let's grab our gauge, and like I said, if it's on the gauge at all, it means we're within good tolerance, because these are the tolerances you want for an LS motor. And it looks to me like we're at the 1.5 thou, which is right where I'd want it to be. So now I'm going to grab a plastic razor blade. I'm going to clean this off a little and get that crap off of my crankshaft, because we don't want that in there. And then same thing on the bearing, get that crap off. We do not want that in there. Then it's a matter of get some lube, put the cap back on, now push that piston back up. Now we're going to put the cap back on, and then we're going to move forward and do it with all the rest of the 7 of them. Alright, so I got all of the pistons installed. Nothing's torqued down yet. I got to go through and torque everything on the bottom end here. But I'm going to go ahead and probably do that tomorrow or Thursday. It's currently Tuesday. Alright guys, so it's a new day here. I don't really remember where I left you off with that last video, so I'm just going to show you where we are. I got all 8 pistons fully installed with rings and everything and lubricated. The cam's in the motor, but that was from the last video. This is very hard to flip over with one hand. Ow! And I'm getting attacked by the other LS motor. Okay, and I've got all of the bolts are in, but nothing is torqued to spec. So that's what I'm going to be doing now, is I'm going to torque all of this to spec. Okay, so I went through and I loosened all these bolts off from where they were so I'd get a more accurate torque spec on them. I mean, I've never calibrated my wrench, so I can't guarantee that it's torqued up. You know, it torques perfectly, but it gets me a hell of a lot closer than guessing, so maybe one day I'll invest in a nice digital one. I just don't do enough of this to justify it. I don't see a reason to be concerned about what order you do the torque in, as long as you do your inner bolts and then your outer bolts on your main caps. As for which cap you do first and which cap you finish on, it doesn't make a difference, because at the end of the day you're supposed to have, you know, 1 to 3 thou worth of clearance. Maybe not 3, but you're supposed to have like over a thou of clearance between your bearing and your crankshaft, so it doesn't matter which order you tighten them up in, because that crankshaft is supposed to be free floating in there. So you can't warp a crankshaft or whatever you might, you know, someone might have said or whatever, because I've heard that you should start in the middle with these, which I did, but not because, you know, I think it's better, it's just where I was. Alright, so all the inners are at 15. Yeah, I know, I only got one hand, I'm holding the camera. Where'd that other socket go? I just lost it. Don't you love it when you do that? I just spent like 5 minutes looking for the thing, and then I put it down, and now I can't find it. I find it, and then I lose it again. Oh, that's because it's on the end of my impact. That makes sense. If I had to guess, I'm going to fast forward through a lot of this, because this will just make the video long, and it's a lot of rambling for no reason. I've got my degree wheel set up, and like I said, it wants 90 on this first one, so I've got it lined up on 270, so I should be able to twist it right to 0 and get my full 90 degrees. This is a very difficult tool to use, even by regular standards, so I'm going to skip through this on my own, and I will get back to you when I am done with it and ready to move on to the connecting rods. All of these main caps are torqued right to spec. Now I just have to do the connecting rod torques, which I know those go together with the moly grease. And I pulled up on my phone the torque spec, and it says 40 foot-pounds. Take a little bit, smear it on the threads, and then we're going to put a little dab right on the top of. Now that was a little more than I intended, but we're going to put a little right on the top here, because it wants the lube applied to the bottom of the head of the bolt and the threads, and the bottom of the head of the bolt's a lot harder to apply to than the top of the hole that the bolt goes into. So now I just got to run these down to 40 foot-pounds. I've got to do 16 of them, so I'll get back with you as soon as I got those together, and then we'll get on to the bigger parts, which will be the more fun parts, and then maybe the cylinder heads. So I got all of those torqued down to spec. Ran really low on grease while doing it, but I got it done. I've loosely hung the rear and front cover just because I got a little excited and I wanted to do it. Now we need to get the windage tray on. I am going to give them all the beans the impact has, because I don't want them coming loose. I don't expect them to come loose, but, you know, because if I thought they'd come loose, I'd put Loctite on them. That was loud. Okay, so bottom ends together. Now we got to put our oil pan back on, which means I got to go get it. Set that down. I know you get less than ideal footage when I do it like that. I'm sorry, I don't mean to do that to you. So this hole is completely stripped out, and despite a gasket being under it, it leaks oil real bad, so I ended up taking RTV and just filling the hole in. It's really the best I had at the time, and considering it was already mounted in the truck, I didn't have a lot of room to work there. We're going to move on now to installing the head gaskets, which, first things first, I gotta get my little dowel pins back in. Okay, so that says front. So, nope, this one goes on this side. Shows how much I know. Okay, so head gaskets are in place. I'm going to call the video here. I have put in these 2 rows of bolts at a snug setting. They're not torqued by any means. They are just ran down to where they touch the cylinder head. So when we come back out here, hopefully tomorrow or something, we'll get this finished torqued, install our couple of missing pieces, and maybe Saturday sometime we can start getting the crew cab back together. So that's all I got for you today. So remember, like, comment, subscribe, and thanks for watching.